Melanie, I wanted to ask, first of all, whether all the things, Dick Morris disagrees with this scenario, but there are people that are saying all the little digs at President Trump are having an effect. And we also have seen now somebody like DeSantis getting a lot of playtime on Fox, for instance, and some of these conservative places. Do you think that this strategy, Mr. Biden went after Trump and MAGA, you have the January 6th committee, you have investigations going on galore, you have the documents being taken from Mar-a-Lago. Is this working against President Trump?
I think those things are working against President Trump. And I would say from all angles, the media, some of the establishment elite in the Republican Party, you know, sometimes President Trump, unfortunately, can be his own worst enemy. And I think all of those things are doing damage. And then we also see Governor DeSantis coming out very strong. He doesn't cause any problems, but he seems to have.
It doesn't cause problems except sending people to other states.
To Martha's Vineyard.
But he doesn't have any problems with Republicans at large.
Right.
You know, like President Trump has and did have even before the last election. There were some Republicans that just couldn't stomach his personality. I was not one of them.
Right.
But there are some that are just really emotional about how President Trump carries himself at times. And I think that is having an effect on him.
Yeah, Orlando, I just wanted to give you a chance to weigh in on your opinion on this one, those polls that Bob pointed out, where Trump's approval rating actually going down again. Dick Morris saying, no, those polls are wrong. But, you know, there are some Republicans out there who may say, you know what, I voted for Trump, I love Trump, but you know what, it's time for someone new. Your take?
Well, there's no doubt that, you know, it was once said, never pick a fight with anyone that buys ink by the barrel. Of course, today it's social media and, of course, the mainstream press. But he is being bled out by 1,000 cuts. And, of course, you know, I've always said that President Trump, his nomination was a result of the shortcomings or perhaps the failures of the Republican Party. Republicans for a long time were looking for a fighter. And President Trump came out like Rocky Marciano, out of the corner, ready to take on anyone. And it worked, but he also made a lot of enemies. And we're seeing the results of that, both within the party and within the mainstream media.
And also, let's talk about something that Mr. Biden said last night. Orlando, I'll start with you. He said he's really not sure about 2024, about whether he'll run or not. He had said earlier that he would, or his people around him said he would. What do you think is going on there? Is he being cagey, or is he really thinking he may not run?
Well, I think he's being cagey. I mean, if things were rosy, as he says, that, you know, inflation is under control at almost 8.5%, the stock market is plummeting. He reminds people that he came up with a corporate tax, but he fails to inform the American public that most of us, whether we have retirement accounts or pension funds or small savings account, we're invested in the market. And when the market drops 1,300 points in one day, and we've seen a massive drop in the S&P and the Dow Jones, that means that our savings are being diminished.
Yeah.
On top of that, while the market is going down, inflation is going up. And so while our savings and our revenues from dividends or interest income is declining, the price of bread, the price of gasoline, the price of milk and formula is going up.
Yeah.
That's a losing situation for a president.
Also, Melanie, I have to bring up something that again, I think this is the headliner I keep going back to from that 60 Minutes interview. The COVID-19 pandemic is over, says President Biden. But also the number of even New York City teachers and aides who are still losing their jobs, simply being fired because they're not getting the vaccine, those numbers are still on the rise, and not just amongst teachers. The pandemic confusion apparently seems to continue.
It certainly continues. And even in that 60 Minutes interview, he said, while he said that the pandemic is over, he said that we still have a problem with COVID. Like, Mr. President, you say that you're very cognizant and that you're on the ball mentally, but those are two completely opposite statements. So he's going to have to pick a side. Either COVID is still a problem and we need everybody to get vaccinated, which in my opinion, we do not. I think that all that we went through with the vaccine has proven that it's just not as effective as it was sold in the beginning, and people are taking second and third looks at getting the vaccine and certainly not getting the booster.
Yeah.
No, FYI, I was a COVID tester over the summer,
Oh, wow.
and nobody, matter of fact, I didn't find one person who had their kids vaccinated. Out of all the people that I met with, nobody had their kids vaccinated.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why is because it's still very questionable.
Yeah, absolutely. The younger
Understandable.
they are, the less likely I would, as a parent,
Yeah,
want to have
because
them
we don't know
vaccinated.
what's going to happen over the years.
Right. Melanie, Orlando, if you'll stay with us, we'll be back. We've got a lot more to talk about.